Maybe we should paint the manual in pink. The voice cut across the weapons depot like a blade through silence. Sharp, mocking, and deliberately aimed to wound. Luna Martinez didn't flinch. She remained crouched beside the jammed HK-416, her fingers steady over the carbon-fouled bolt. Her hands moved with measured precision, sleeves rolled to her elbows, revealing scarred knuckles and quiet defiance etched in flesh. The laughter came next, easy, cruel, familiar. These were Tier 1 operators after all. Hard men, confident in their superiority, bored with routine. And she, well, she wasn't supposed to be here. Not in their minds. From across the armory, Staff Sergeant Marcus Kane approached, his combat boots heavy with entitlement. Back in my day, he said, slow and pointed, we didn't let civilian girls play with the big boys' toys. He stopped behind her, voice dropping to a whisper that somehow felt louder than shouting. You sure you're not lost, Martinez? Still no answer. Still no flinch. Luna reached into her tactical vest, pulled out a specialized tool none of the others carried, slid it along the chamber mechanism, twisted once, and cleared the jam in a single, silent motion that spoke of muscle memory deeper than training. Kane smirked, then frowned. That's when he saw it just a flicker, half a second, as she adjusted her grip. Ink, black, curved, intentional, etched high on her left forearm. Military, not vanity. Something older than the Ranger tab on his own uniform. For that brief, blink-sized moment, he froze. The others kept at their harassment, oblivious. Bet she's here for diversity quotas, one muttered. Probably married some colonel to get that clearance. Does she alphabetize the ammunition too? Luna said nothing, did nothing. She simply continued her work. Each movement was exact, purposeful, like she wasn't just fixing a rifle, she was conducting a symphony of precision that spoke a language they couldn't understand. From behind the equipment rack, Corporal Jake Morrison watched. He hadn't joined the hazing, not because he was brave, but because something felt fundamentally wrong. She didn't carry herself like a contractor, didn't move like someone learning on the job. He'd seen her on the perimeter road at 0500 every morning, 5 miles alone, rain or shine. Not jogging for fitness, running like she was chasing something, or being chased by it. As Luna reached for the optical sight, her sleeve shifted again. The ink reappeared, this time revealing more. An eagle, not standard issue, modified with crossed daggers beneath it. Morrison's eyes narrowed. Kane opened his mouth to deliver another cutting remark, then closed it again. The room held its breath for just a second. Luna pulled her sleeve back down, quiet and precise, and returned to her work. Most thought she was strange, cold, a civilian with clearance but no camaraderie. But Morrison was beginning to think they weren't ignoring her story. They just hadn't earned the right to know it. She stayed crouched longer than the task required, not because the rifle was stubborn, but because the position felt familiar. Her hands bore evidence that didn't match a gunsmith's trade, calluses between thumb and forefinger, edges of palms worn smooth, from gripping something heavier than repair tools. The kind of wear you earn from fast roping into darkness, hitting the ground hard, crawling forward without light or sound. 3 years ago, the world had known her by another name, Captain Luna Rodriguez, call sign Phoenix 7. She had belonged to a unit that officially didn't exist, Delta Force's most classified cell. Nightfall Squadron was its unofficial designation. 9 members, no faces in public records, no home addresses on file. Luna had been the only woman, and the one they sent when stealth wasn't just preferred, it was the difference between mission success and international incidents. In Syria, she had moved through a terrorist compound, undetected, neutralized 6 hostiles, and exfiltrated with 3 hostages before the first alarm sounded. In Afghanistan, she had navigated 14 hours solo through Taliban-controlled territory, reached a surrounded outpost, and ended the siege without firing a shot. She didn't leave footprints. She left legends. Special forces still used her infiltration techniques in their training protocols. She was the first woman to complete the Crucible, a 96-hour solo endurance operation designed to break elite candidates. Most men tapped out within 24 hours. Luna had vanished into the Afghan mountains for 4 days and emerged, having exceeded every parameter. There were stories the brass couldn't confirm. 12 insurgents in Kandahar, who were neutralized in complete darkness using only blade and sidearm, or the convoy in Helmand province that made it home because someone had eliminated the IED team before the ambush could begin. The only trace left behind was a symbol, an eagle with crossed daggers, etched into tree bark, or carved into stone. No name, just a line beneath it, in Latin. Virtus in silentio. Valor in silence. Only Nightfall operatives who had lost teammates earned that modified eagle. Luna's bore two names, etched along the wing feathers in ink so fine you'd miss them without intent. Rodriguez and Chen. They had died because someone with stars on their collar had authorized a mission based on faulty intelligence. Luna had lived because they had forced her to leave them behind. She still remembered Chen's hand shoving her toward the extraction point, toward the helicopter's spotlight cutting through the darkness, while gunfire erupted behind her. They called it heroic sacrifice. She called it a debt that would never be paid. The army had offered her a chest full of ribbons. She had refused them all. Medals belong to the dead, she had said. The rest of us carry what's left. Within a week, she had vanished, burned her military ID, cleared her accounts, filed herself as KIA in all unofficial records, and let it stay that way. Now her redemption was quiet, one weapon at a time, one rifle rebuilt and rebalanced like it might save someone else's life. She didn't explain how she knew what she knew. But sometimes, in the early morning fog that hugged the base's outer perimeter, she would pause during her run and look up slightly like she was checking to see if they were still watching, and whether she was doing right by the names on her arm. This was why she didn't speak, why she kept her sleeves down, why she let men like Staff Sergeant Kane bark and dismiss her. Glory belonged to the dead. The living carried things far heavier than medals. Kane had made Luna Martinez his personal crusade, a daily reminder that standards were slipping. 6 feet of sun-weathered arrogance, he believed women like her diluted the warrior class. He didn't just ignore her, he weaponized her presence. Morning briefings became sermons on tradition, on how real grit couldn't be outsourced, on how some people got security clearance because boxes needed to be checked. He started assigning her the lowest tasks, not repairs, but cleaning, mopping hangar floors, scrubbing rust-off equipment before inspections, polishing brass that would tarnish again within hours. Make those sinks sparkle, Martinez, he'd grin. That's more your speed, isn't it? The other contractors didn't laugh, but they didn't object either. Silence was safer. Luna did it all without complaint, without eye rolls, without a trace of anger in her movements. But Kane began to notice something unsettling. On the rare occasions when she was permitted to handle weapons, her hands moved with an intimacy that spoke of more than technical training. She didn't fix rifles, she communed with them. One morning, Kane entered carrying an M110 semi-automatic sniper system, long neglected and dust-covered. "All right, people," he announced, voice carrying theatrical authority. "Let's test our resident expert." He slammed the rifle onto her workbench. "Martinez here thinks she's got magic hands. Let's see if she can diagnose this museum piece without frying its circuits." Luna said nothing. She simply picked up the weapon. Something shifted in the room, subtle but undeniable. Her posture straightened. Her thumb brushed the bolt assembly, then the scope mount. Without opening the rifle, without firing a single round, she spoke. "Gas system off by 4 degrees. Chamber shows fouling from approximately 800 rounds. Brass case, not steel. Buffer spring under tolerance. Scope mount has hairline fracturing on the left rail. Trigger assembly contaminated with fine sand desert operations." She paused, running her finger along the barrel. Scoring in the chamber walls. This rifle wasn't just neglected. It was abandoned. Silence. Real silence this time. Kane hadn't known about the internal scoring information that would require complete disassembly to discover. "Lucky guesses," he muttered, but his voice had lost its edge. Luna set the rifle down carefully. Her hand trembled not from fear, but from the effort required to keep the ghost inside from fully awakening. She had held this exact model on a rooftop in Fallujah, had used one just like it to save lives that would never know her name. Across the depot, Colonel Sarah Blake stood motionless. She hadn't intended to stop, but something about Luna's movements had frozen her in place. The woman didn't move like a civilian contractor. She moved like someone who had survived missions others didn't return from. Even now, Luna scanned exits when aircraft passed overhead. Her body would tense, not startled, just prepared. Then she raised 2 fingers in a specific pattern, a hand signal so classified that only special operations personnel would recognize it. Blake's instincts sharpened. She accessed restricted databases on her secure tablet, running searches through redacted files. One call sign appeared repeatedly in classified after-action reports. Phoenix 7, Nightfall Squadron, listed as KIA after Operation Silent Thunder. But there was a partial photograph shadowed features, but the same steady gaze she was seeing now. Then Luna reached up to adjust the rifle's scope. Her sleeve slipped. There it was, an eagle with crossed daggers, 2 stars above the wings, Latin text beneath, Virtus in silentio, valor in silence. Only 11 people had ever received that variant. 10 were accounted for. Blake had just found the 11th. Behind Luna, someone shifted. Marcus Torres, the senior armorer who always worked within arm's reach of her, whose hand drifted instinctively toward his sidearm whenever Kane raised his voice. He wasn't just staff, he was Overwatch, a guardian angel in contractor's clothing. Blake's mind raced. How many others walked these bases unseen, not forgotten but hidden by choice, ghosts serving in plain sight? She stepped forward and removed her cap. Her voice cut through the silence like a blade. Captain Luna Rodriguez, Phoenix 7, you extracted my team from Mosul. I thought you were dead. Luna turned slowly. No surprise in her eyes, just the calm acceptance of someone whose cover had finally been blown. Blake snapped to attention. She saved my entire unit, saved me. The room went silent. Then one operator stood, then another. A wall of harassment transformed into a wall of salutes. Kane's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Luna rolled up her sleeve completely. The full eagle gleamed under the fluorescent lights, 2 stars, 2 names etched in memorial, Rodriguez and Chen. Never forgotten. There was no triumph in her expression, only the weight of memory and loss. I came here to serve quietly, she said, fingertips resting on the names carved into her skin. To honor those who can't. Every weapon I service might bring someone home. That's all that matters now. Colonel Blake's voice trembled with emotion. Captain, I'm sorry. We failed you. Luna didn't blink. You failed them, she said, pointing to the names on her arm. They died believing in something larger than themselves. Kane dropped to one knee. Captain Rodriguez, She cut him off. I don't need apologies. Be better. Real warriors don't announce themselves. They serve. They ensure others can do the same. Torres stepped forward and rolled up his sleeve. An eagle. Same stars, different name, etched beneath. Miguel Santos, KIA. Santos was my spotter, he said quietly. I transferred here to watch Phoenix 7-6. Someone needed to guard the Guardian. A second ghost revealed. The room stopped breathing. Then came the final revelation. Kane's voice cracked as he spoke. Chen was my brother-in-law. I knew who you were when you arrived. I needed someone to blame for him not coming home. Luna's breath caught. The man who had tormented her most carried his own phantom, his own guilt that manifested as misplaced anger. General Patricia Hayes entered, taking in the entire scene. Captain Rodriguez, we need you back. Luna shook her head. I'm not coming back to active duty. Hayes stepped closer. They gave their lives so others could rise, help us build the world they never saw. Luna's hand returned to her tattoo, tracing the names with reverence. Then she nodded once. One cycle, no publicity. Then I disappear again. Weeks later, a class of female special operations candidates stood at attention in the training facility. Luna entered, wearing plain fatigues, no rank insignia, no name tape, no indication of her legendary status. Kane sat in the back row, no longer an adversary but a student ready to learn. Your enemy doesn't care about your gender, Luna began, her voice carrying the authority of hard-earned experience. Bullets don't discriminate. Physics doesn't compromise. Excellence is the only currency that matters. She taught leverage over brute force, precision over aggression. She shared tactical wisdom without ever naming herself as the source. Kane watched, then began helping quietly, his daughter's impending Navy enlistment giving new meaning to every lesson. One morning he approached her. My daughter wants to join the SEALs, he said. Luna looked at him steadily. Then let's make sure she enters a better world than we found. By graduation, 5 women passed the selection, the highest success rate in the program's history. Kane spoke at the ceremony. I thought strength looked a certain way. Captain Rodriguez proved me wrong, without ever raising her voice or returning my hostility with anger. She showed me that true warriors lift others up. The next day, Luna vanished. She left only a note. Heroes are the ones who didn't come home. Let them rest. Let me run. Security footage mysteriously malfunctioned. Hayes closed the file with a mixture of respect and resignation. 6 months later, Kane received an unmarked package containing military coordinates. They led to a hillside in Colorado, where 3 crosses stood unmarked in the wilderness. No plaque, no memorial, just an eagle carved into a boulder with 2 names below, Rodriguez and Chen. Luna ran there every dawn 5 miles, 1 mile for each member of Nightfall Squadron who hadn't made it home. The women she had trained were thriving across various special operations units. One saved 30 lives in Syria. One revolutionized battlefield medicine. All carried her lessons like sacred knowledge. Quiet, unshakable, transformative. Cain now taught others. His approach fundamentally changed. His daughter passed SEAL selection on her second attempt. At her graduation ceremony, he glimpsed a figure in the crowd, Luna, watching from the shadows. She nodded once, acknowledging the completion of a circle, then melted away again. Not one ghost, but a network of them. They served in silence so others could stand in light, carried the weight of the fallen so the living could soar, and proved that true strength wasn't measured in volume but in impact. Luna Martinez continued running her morning miles, carrying her friends' names and memories, ensuring their sacrifice meant something more than statistics in classified files. In the silence between footfalls, their voices whispered encouragement, and in the growing strength of those she had trained, their legacy lived on. The eagle on her arm caught the morning light as she ran. Its wings spread wide, carrying the weight of honor, memory, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the shadows where heroes are made and legends are born.